Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finky Cat. So I'm back with a video that I talked about sometime in December using colour cubes. So I've just gone and grabbed box number 1. I've just done the random generator thing, so I'll stick that up in the corner, and that's given me number 144, which is this beautiful, totally not seasonal because it's January and we've got an autumnal card, but it doesn't matter, it's fine. So I can take the inspiration from the photograph. I'm going to try and hard to match the colours, and it's given me anthracite, black bean, ember, carrot orange and coffee. So definitely sort of very autumnal tones. So I'm going to talk you through how I managed to do this, and then we're going to make a card or something. I don't know what we're going to make. I think we're going to make a card. I think I fancy playing with inks. Now, there's quite a lot of browns there and the dark sort of grey black. I mean, I think for the anthracite, we're going to have to go black soot. I don't think we've got a choice on that one. I'm thinking that that dark brown there is going to be early espresso. I've got my vintage photo out, which I think is going to be that one there. Now, how about maybe more mustard? More mustard for that yellowy colour. Now, that terracotta colour, what colour did it say? Ember. Terracotta colour. What have I got that's that colour? Might be struggling a bit with that. It's sort of a reddy brown, isn't it? I'm wondering, too bright. Just thinking, if I mix together maybe the reddy colour with a browny colour. It's going to be too red, isn't it? And that's too green toned. Ooh, might be struggling with this colour. Right. What else have we got? Just have a look and see. I mean, that might be too red, but maybe if I mix that and that together, I think we might go with that fired brick. It's not a perfect colour match. We're never going to get a perfect colour match because I don't own every colour in the world of ink. But I think that'll do. Okay, so they're my colour choices. Mix of different ink types. And obviously that fired brick isn't quite there, but you know what? It'll probably be enough to do it. Okay, so you've now got future Catherine, because although I did talk to the camera for a little bit, I then sort of forgot I was filming and stopped talking. So it doesn't make much sense to carry on like that, and instead I'm just going to stick you into fast forward. So I did decide what I was in the mood for doing was doing a bit of stenciling and using all of those colours in a stencil. I decided on this Tim Holtz one and decided I was going to make a DL shaped card. Again, there was no rhyme, no reason. It wasn't specifically themed to the card or anything along those lines that I'd picked out. All I'm using the card for really is the colour choices, especially because it's given me sort of like an autumnal theme, and I'm really not in the mood for autumn making in the beginning of January. So as I'm stenciling, I'm just choosing little patches of the area that I'm adding the colour to. So giving them 2 or 3 places at least around the card so that we get some variation in the colour. I do have some bits of overlap as well so that it's not such sort of jarring lines. I think blending brushes really help with this so that you don't really get harsh lines anyway, especially when you're doing it through a stencil. So final colour is that black soot. I have to say the fired brick with the vintage photo over the top matches perfectly with the colour on the card. So I was quite pleased with how those blended together and created that slightly more terracotta coloured brown. Okay, so now I'm on to the sentiment, and I knew I was going to do a die cut word. I wasn't quite sure which one I was going to use at this point, so I'm just going to ink up that yellow card with the more mustard just to make it more in tone and in keeping with the original, but I do want something a little bit bright and zingy. I do end up die cutting the word though from both black and from the yellow, because I realised that the yellow was probably going to get a bit lost with it being quite a fine die cut, and this does get quite fiddly, but yeah, with it being a fine die cut, I really wanted something else for it to stand out against all that pattern. So the reason it gets a bit fiddly is because I forgot the little trick of die cutting it with a piece of bubble wrap. Oh, should have done that, never mind. Instead, I end up poking all the bits out slowly, painstakingly. It cut from the yellow a lot better from this black. This black is quite a cheap cardstock, and I think that's probably part of the problem. But it's also a really fine fiddly die cut. It looks fabulous in the end, but oh my goodness, this took some time. Considering this is it speeded up, you can imagine how long it took. I mean, I think at this point, editing Catherine has speeded this up to ×8. Yeah, it took quite a while. Once I finally have both of the pieces cut out, you'll see the yellow really doesn't take half as long. Once I have both of those pieces out with all of the bits weeded from it, I am going to glue them together, but at a slight offset. Again, this is a little bit fiddly. So what I probably should have done was added the little bit dots of glue to the black one rather than the yellow one. But what I didn't want, because I wanted it to overlap, was for me to mistakenly put it on a bit that then ended up showing. As it is, it really doesn't matter. It dries clear. Nobody is noticing it. You have to remind yourself sometimes that you are a handmade card person, not a machine perfect person. Anyway, once I'd glued it down, I realised I still hadn't got enough separation, because it is obviously very heavily patterned with that stencilled piece. So instead I am cutting a piece of black, and then I'm going to die cut that using this glittery die, which is an octagon type shape. And then I am going to also add a layer of that yellow. But again, I needed to darken it up, so I chose to, instead of just adding the more mustard, I also added some of the fired brick and then whatever was left on my brush in terms of the brown. And then, because I haven't got a die that's bigger than that size that I'd already die cut it with, but because it's a nice, obviously straight edge shape, I could use my paper trimmer to just give myself a reasonably similar border all the way around, and that just gave it a nice frame. And now I'm going to glue my words down. So to be honest, this is quite a simple card at this point. There's nothing particularly difficult happened. I am really pleased with that colour choice. It is absolutely not something I would have ever chosen to do normally. So actually, there you go. Use one of the cards. It has worked. It has pushed me to choose something a bit different. I decided, however, I did need splatter, so I went in. This is a Wink of Stella pen, but in kind of gold, but it's kind of like a weird greeny gold, but it works, it's fine. I just fancied some splatter that was a bit sparkly, so that's what I went with. And then I am gluing on top of that my sentiment panel. And that is pretty much what the front of the card is going to end up looking like. Obviously, I need to create a card blank. It's a DL card, so I go at 4 1/4 is how I score it. And then I will, once I have folded it in place, I will then just trim along that edge to make a card blank. But because it's a dark card blank, I also need an insert. And I decided actually I would create 2 panels for the inside, because I want to ink one of them up around the edge, just so it's exactly the same colours as are on the front of the card. I'm sort of into this at the moment of really making an effort with the insides of my cards as well as the outsides. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not difficult when I say making an effort. I mean, I am literally just doing some scruffy blending around the outside. I'm really not concerned about what it looks like because I'm going to cover most of it with the white panel. But yeah, I am into at the moment making sure that the inside of my cards coordinates with the outside. And so that's how I decided to do it for this one. Didn't add any stenciling or any sentiments. I literally just now, I'm going to add that white panel, and that is going to create a lovely colourful frame for that panel, and then just stick it to the inside. So it does coordinate. Is it fancy? No, it's not. And now it's just time to stick this down. And I did decide, even though I'd added the sparkle splatter, that I really wanted some gems as well. So I kept it simple and just went with 5 black gems. They're quite small, but they work with that particular colour scheme, and they just pull that little bit out. So there you go. That's the end of my card. First of the colour challenges done. I'm really pleased. As I say, it's worked. First card. It's made me choose colours I would never have normally gone for. So it has worked, and I'm really pleased with it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it was useful to see how I colour matched everything. Please subscribe to see future videos. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.